Anyone present who wishes to speak in support or against an application, as well as anyone with any questions or concerns, will have an opportunity to speak. The committee will make their decisions following each application. If there is anyone present who is not an applicant or agent but is interested in the decision of the committee, you may file your interest with our Secretary Treasurer. Please list the file number, your full name and mailing address, and copies of the decisions are automatically sent to the applicant and the agent within 15 days of the meeting. In order to be kept advised of a possible appeal of the local planning to the local planning appeal tribunal, you must request that you be sent a copy of the committee decision to the application. Decisions are final if there are no appeals 20 days after the decision. May I remind you that we are being recorded and to mute your devices if you happen to have one. And I'll first start off with a bit of a roll call for some of our members. We have Phil and Tim present in house, and I see Rudy is online. And what about Linda? Okay, and Lisa, I guess, has sent her regrets as well. So we do have a quorum anyhow. So our first order of business is to determine if any members have any disclosures of interest when considering any of these applications. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Anybody? Oh, okay. Rudy, you're good? Okay.
I'm good.
Thank you, Rudy. Have all the members of received the minutes of the previous meeting? Are there any errors or omissions? If not, can I have a resolution? I have a resolution before me. I need a mover and a seconder, please. Tim? Bill? Resolved that the minutes of the Committee Adjustment meeting held Wednesday, March the 15th be adopted as circulated. All in favor? Bill? And Tim and Rudy?
Yes.
Myself, and that's carried. Our first application to be considered is the name of BNPL 2021230 Spring Flower Limited. And the planner can give the report, please.
Thank you. Through the chair, an application has been received to sever a parcel having a frontage of approximately 342 meters, a width of the same, a depth of approximately 595 meters, and an area of 20.4 hectares, and retain a parcel having an area of 20.1 hectares as the creation of a lot in the agricultural area, specifically for the purpose of disassembling an agricultural parcel for agricultural purposes. The subject lands are designated and zoned predominantly agricultural with some sections of hazard lands. As these hazard lands are within the LPRCA's regulatory boundaries, they have submitted a comment indicating no concern with the concept of the application. The lands that
Interrupt, we're not getting the PowerPoint.
Okay.
Sorry.
I'll look for that. Sure, I can carry on. The lands to be disassembled are occupied by two greenhouse complexes, an old kiln yard, and a single detached dwelling. The agricultural activities taking place on the subject lands include horticulture, potatoes, garlic, and sunflowers. So to provide some context, the application was presented to the Committee of Adjustment on September 15th of 2021, and a motion to defer the file was passed. The planning report at that time identified that a zoning bylaw amendment had not been submitted to address the creation of a lot which would not meet the minimum size of 40 hectares. Subsequently, a zoning bylaw amendment and official plan amendment were approved on council on January 25th of 2023 to have the effect of two items in terms of policy. So the zoning bylaw permitted the reduced lot size of approximately 20 hectares, and then the official plan amendment permitted relief from section 7.2.4, subsection A, subsection 4, or IV of the official plan, which requires a demonstration that nearby lots of a similar size to that proposed are not available and suitable for the intended agricultural use. So these past bylaws have been included as attachment 4 and 5 to my report. There are a range of policy tests through the provincial policy statement and official plan which need to be met for this type of severance. These are discussed in full in my report for the committee as well as my previous reports to council. With that said, I am of the opinion that the proposal meets the intent and purpose of the PPS official plan and zoning bylaw and recommending for approval today. I'm available for questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And members, sorry we didn't get the PowerPoint up, but we're working on that. Does the committee have any questions of the planner? No. Is there an agent or applicant present? Okay.
Good evening, Dave Rowe, the agent for the applicant, reviewed the staff report in agreement with it, as well as in agreement with the conditions that have been applied to the severance approval. We have no issues that way. This ends about a 2.5-year saga in order to get this thing finally approved, and certainly thank some of the people along the way that we actually got to this day. So I won't say anything more. I think I've maybe 1 or 2 more applications to come before your committee until I'm formally retired from Norfolk County. Thanks again.
Okay, very good. Thank you, David. The committee have any questions of the agent? Is there anyone present that wishes to speak to this application? Is there anyone online that wishes to speak to this application? What are the wishes of the committee?
Mr. Chairman, Rudy moves approval. It's a very comprehensive report.
Thank you, Rudy. So Rudy moves approval. Can I get a second? Tim? So file number BNPL 2021230 in the name of Springflower Limited. The application is consistent with the provincial policy, complies with the policy of the Norfolk County official plan regarding creation of a lot in an urban area, and meets the intent of the zoning bylaw. All those in favor, Tim? And Rudy?
Yes.
Bill? So? That is carried. Page. Okay, so next up we have file number ANPL 2023047 in the name of Riley Ernst, and the planner can give the report, please.
Thank you. Through the chair, an application has been received to construct a new detached accessory residential dwelling unit, which I'll refer to as an ADU, requiring relief of 7 square meters from the maximum permitted usable floor area for an ADU of 75 square meters, 3 meters from the maximum permitted height of a detached ADU of 5 meters to permit a height of 8 meters, and 26 meters from the maximum permitted setback of 40 meters for a detached ADU from the main dwelling to permit a total increased setback of 66 meters. The lands in question are designated and zoned agricultural, located northwest of the intersection of Wyndham Road 7 and Highway 24. They are currently occupied by a single detached dwelling and detached garage with a carport. It's my understanding this lot was severed in 2005, and with the single detached home, the lot also retained a greenhouse, which has since been demolished. So the proposed ADU with the attached garage will be constructed over the footprint of the previous greenhouse's foundation. So for some context, due to the recently updated zoning bylaw, for ADUs. The 200 square meter usable floor area for accessory structures isn't integrated into our calculations, so now we separate them. So while the proposed structure would appear quite large, they're two separate items. So we have the detached structure, which does meet the requirement for detached accessory structures in the agricultural zone of 200 square meters. And the ADU itself meets the 75 square meter requirement for that's a small relief item. Just noting that should the accessory structure and dwelling unit become attached in the future, these zoning provisions may not be fulfilled. So due to the unique context of the subject lands, my staff report kind of outlines some considerations on why these relatively large requests for relief are appropriate in this case. I think context is important, and I think especially as we're facing a new zoning bylaw, we have a new committee group, we have increased pressure for housing, it's important to understand the contextual reasons for why certain amounts of relief are okay and some may not be. But with that said, I would argue that it is considered appropriate for the desirable use of land. It is minor given the unique context and does meet the intent of the zoning bylaw and official plan. And I do recognize it meets a variety of other requirements to the zoning bylaw. So with that, I am recommending this application for approval. And we're available for any questions, and thanks.
Thank you, Ann. Does the committee have any questions of the planner? Is there an agent or applicant present? Captain? Okay, good. Thank you. Is there, does the committee have any questions of the agent? No? Is there anyone present that wishes to speak to this application? Or online? No? What's the wishes of the committee, please? Okay, Tim moves for approval. Seconder? No? So file number ANPL 2023047 in the name of Riley Ernst. In accordance with section 45(1) of the Planning Act, the requested relief is considered appropriate for the proposed development, minor in nature, maintains the general intent of the official plan and the zoning bylaw. All those in favor, Tim? And Rudy?
Yes.
You and Phil? It's carried. Okay, so next up we have file number ANPL 2022216 in the name of Brent Campbell. And the planner can give the report, please.
Thank you. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Great.
Welcome, Andrew.
Thank you. Sorry, I have COVID, so this is why I'm doing this remotely, so my apologies. Through the chair, an application has been received seeking relief of 9.3 meters from the required exterior side yard setback. The subject lands form part of a small residential enclave to the west side of Hillcrest Road, southeast of Simcoe. Dawson Close is a cul-de-sac with 7 detached dwellings. 2 Dawson Court, the subject lands, is the first property on the south side of Dawson Court near the junction with Hillcrest Road, forming a corner lot. It is the exterior side yard setback from Hillcrest Road, which would require the relief to allow for the extension of the existing detached dwelling. The zoning bylaws for a lot within the agricultural zone would seek a minimum exterior side yard setback of 13 meters. In this instance, relief of 9.3 meters is sought to allow a setback of only 3.7 meters. This was considered to be significant loss of the existing exterior side yard setback, but would not likely result in any negative impact on neighbors or Hillcrest Road. Given this, staff conclude that the application conforms to the intent of the Norfolk official plan and zoning bylaw and is both appropriate and minor. Planning staff support this application and recommend it to be approved. And I'm open for any questions.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. Is there any questions of the committee? Is there an agent or applicant present? Anything to add, sir? Okay, that's it? Okay, that's fine. Any questions from the committee? No? Is there anyone present or online that wishes to speak to this application? What are the wishes of the committee?
Rudy moves approval, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Rudy. And a seconder, please. Tim? So file number ANPL 2022216 in the name of Brent Campbell. In accordance with section 45(1) of the Planning Act, the requested relief is considered appropriate for the proposed development minor in nature and maintains the general intent of the official plan and the zoning bylaw. All those in favor, Tim? Rudy?
Yes.
Bill? So, and that is carried. There you go. Okay, so next up we have file number ANPL 2023033 in the name of Tracy Bradley and Barbara Archer. Thank you, because that's got a comment. And the planner can give the report, please.
Thank you. This is 11 4th Avenue in Long Point. Through the chair, an application has been received to construct an addition to an existing cottage requiring relief of 5% from the maximum permitted lot coverage of 15% to permit a lot coverage of 20%. The subject land is a through lot with frontage on the east side of 4th Avenue and with a rear boundary fronting Poplar Road. It is a good-sized lot in Long Point terms with an area of 942 square meters. There is an existing vacation home on the site located towards 4th Ave. The proposal seeks a modest level of relief to allow for a total lot coverage of 20% rather than the 15% permitted under the zoning bylaws for resort residential. This is to allow for an extension to the vacation home to both the north and south ends to add additional living accommodation as well as a covered porch. The proposed level of relief is considered both minor and appropriate, and the proposal conforms to the intent of the Norfolk County official plan and zoning bylaws. As such, planning staff support the application and recommend it for approval.
Okay, thank you. Does the committee have any questions of the planner? Is there an agent or applicant present? Just you're the applicants? Okay, just anything to add? Just push the mic button, the big gray one, Todd. Yeah.
No, we reviewed all the comments from the various departments, conservation as well. Very straightforward. Looking forward to moving on with this if we can.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Any questions of the committee to the applicants? Is there anyone present that wishes to speak to this application, online or in person? No? What are the wishes of the committee? Bill? Seconded by Tim. So file number ANPL 2023033 in the name of Tracy Bradley and Barbara Archer, or is that, we have that reversed? There's a comma in here. Okay, very good. In accordance with section 45(1) of the Planning Act, the requested relief is considered appropriate for the proposed development, minor in nature, maintains the general intent of the official plan and the zoning bylaw. All in favor of this, Tim? And Rudy?
Yes.
Thank you. And Phil? And myself, and that is carried and approved. Thank you. Okay, so next up we have file number ANPL 2023048 in the name of Alan Zhang. And the planner can give the report, please.
Thank you. Through the chair, an application has been received for the reconstruction of an existing commercial or mixed building with 5 residential dwelling units, requiring relief from 6.1.4 of the zoning bylaw, which requires dwelling units on the ground floor occupying no more than 50% of the usable floor area of the first story of the building. This application will have the effect of granting relief of 25% from the maximum permitted 50% noted to permit 75% of the usable floor area of the first story be for residential dwellings. The subject lands are located at northeast of the intersection of Main Street of Portland, otherwise known as Highway 3 and Talbot Street in Portland. They are designated commercial and zoned CBD or Central Business District. As the lands are occupied by an existing building, as I noted, of mixed retail and residential use, the lands are abutting Highway 3, and as such, the Ministry of Transportation has been circulated for comment. No comments were received from the MTO as of the writing of this report. The proposed development is intended to create 2 additional dwelling units on the ground floor of the mixed-use building. The retail use will continue to occupy the frontage of the building, which faces the streetscape of the Main Street of Portland. While this does represent, through numbers, a larger percentage to be removed from retail use, it's the understanding of staff that the retail portion is proposed to be approximately 700 square feet as at the end of this, if it's approved. So I would argue that it should be able to accommodate a business with perhaps smaller area needs, but still be able to accommodate a business in the existing building. I would also not expect this to introduce any significant compatibility concerns to the existing commercial uses within the building or surrounding businesses in the area. That said, it's my professional opinion that given the context of the building and resulting use, the proposed development meets the 4 tests, and I recommend it for approval, and I am available for questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Hannah. Any questions with the committee to the planner? Phil, you just have to turn your mic on.
Are they going to have sufficient parking on the lot for swinging?
Thank you. Great question through the chair. There are no parking spaces required in the CBD zone, so it wouldn't create any further deficiency.
Okay. Anything else? Is there an agent or applicant in attendance? Okay, have a chance, yeah. Press the mic button, please. Big gray one on the mic. There you
Okay. I'm Ken Beekendam. I'm the agent for the owner.
go. Okay.
I agree. I think planning staff have done a wonderful job on this application. Yeah, we're basically taking a really large, deep commercial unit, and we're just reducing it so that we can get a couple more units into the building and just make better use of the space overall. We're still maintaining, a nice size retail space so that we can still have retail frontage on the street. But we're trying to make more affordable units and just make use of basically empty space.
So I read the report. So when you're all said and done, how many units will you have as residential?
So right now it's 1 commercial and 5 residential. And so I think there's 6 residential in the building. 1 commercial, 6 residential. We're adding another 2. So it'd be 1 commercial and 8 residential.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of the committee?
So my question is just how many parking, I know that parking is not under the thing, but how many parking spots are there for cars currently?
Well, if you look at the subject site, it's the way the building is set up on the land, like there is a lot of space in the rear of this property. And hasn't really been established parking at this site at all since it was created. There is an old garage building, out like an old kind of shop building out back behind it. You know, there is space on the lot for parking, but you know, since my client have purchased the property, there's been no established kind of parking lot, and it seems to be serving the existing residents fine.
Any other questions of the committee? Okay. Just ask you to take your seat. And is there anyone that wishes to speak to this application? Sir, step right up, state your name. And
My name is John Peasel. My wife and I, we own Portland Bakery, which is 2 buildings over from the property. I'll address the thing about parking first. A lot of the tenants in that particular building and the one that's between his building and a lot of the tenants are parking up front. In fact, when I came tonight, one of my neighbor's tenants is already on my property. Through the winter, there have been just a lot of cars parked, and it's interfered with snow plowing, etc. In the back, there is some parking, but there is a septic system in the back. This is my second point. About 15 years ago, that septic system failed. Sandy Shepard at Burnett's Trucking, he came to me. The header was filled with sand and the lines going down. So what Burnett's Trucking did was they cut the septic system in half and put a new header down the back. Now that septic system basically was created for 3 apartments. Then the back 4th apartment was used. And then about, I don't know, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, I'm watching guys unload a skid of lumber into the back of that building. And I asked the carpenters, I said, do you guys have a building permit for this? And they said, you don't need a permit for this. And I know you need a permit for everything. And what they did is they created the apartment in the middle of the night. That's how you know it was wrong. Now the septic system there is grossly inadequate for it. And Sandy Shepard had said to me, next year, we're going to put in a new system. 15 years later, there's only half the system, and they're creating 2 more residences in that place. It won't satisfy 2. I've gone through a lot of stuff with this county. I've built buildings, always had building permits, always had inspectors. I built decks, I built basement apartments, always had permits, always had inspections. The owners, the previous owners, I don't even know Mr. Zhang. The previous owners never did anything. We've had issues with the septic system, and I've appeared before county council before with photographs of sewage going on to the eastern neighbor's property. You know what happened? Nothing. The health department actually went down there and crawled up this guy's rear end to blame the neighbor for the sewage being dumped onto his property, which I think is wrong. I've seen so many times they build little buildings, little additions. They were going to build a building on top of a septic tank and put a compressor building in there. Do anybody know what methane does? It explodes when it's exposed to electrical sparks. I've watched this happen for years, and I'm telling you, I'm sick of watching this, them not doing the things that should be done. In addition, there are a lot of building deficiencies there. I have a photograph on my phone. I could show you people.
let me interrupt you for a second. Like, things like building deficiencies are.
I realize that, but like I said, the septic system has a direct relationship on more residences inside.
But things like building deficiencies are outside of the realm of this committee and this application. That's all I'll say.
Okay, well,
I'll ask the agent if he can respond. Let me ask you first, have you had a septic inspection?
Yeah, so just for the record, so my client has just recently purchased this property. So I can't speak to what previous owners have done over the years, what they've done legally or not legally with permits. I know my client is pulling a permit. That's why he hired me to help him with this application and pull a building permit to get this building fixed up like it needs to be. Part of that is a septic system. he's already been engaging a septic designer. And that work is well underway already. That's been underway as far as consulting and designing it out to accommodate the needs of the building. And that can be easily included as part of our permit submission if committee wishes to make that a condition of the approval. That's not a problem. We can do that. Yeah, so like I said, we're trying to get this building fixed up. We're trying to create a couple more units, which will only support, you know, other local businesses, including the bakery. And we're here to help kind of clean up the mess that was left behind by the previous property owners.
Now, going back to the parking, my question would be, I mean, this gentleman, if he has parking issues from cars, you know, he can take care of that himself, bylaw or whatever, and have them towed away or whatever. Do you have, or will you have adequate parking on site for vehicles of your tenants and the retail?
Well, so parking wasn't a requirement under the zoning
I
bylaw,
understand
so
that.
it wasn't something that we took a close look at. Like I said, there is additional space in the rear of the property. There's a driveway that goes between the buildings into the rear. We'd have to take a close look at that and see if, you know, parking spaces could be accommodated back there. I can't speak to that at this moment because we have not looked into it further. But historically, the building hasn't had actual parking spaces, nor does the zoning bylaw require.
Okay. Okay. Any questions of the committee? Rudy, anything?
No, I'm fine, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay. I think what we'll do is make the septic study or septic design part of a condition. You can add that in. All right. I don't want to put you on the spot.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So confirming this is a minor variance application. Typically, and what I'm hearing is through the building permit application, there would be those confirmations. I'm just looking at Hannah through the circulation. Did the building department or zoning administrator comment on any of these aspects? Also confirming that the number of units currently existing in the structure are legally all permitted. Because typically what happens is they'd have to go back and perhaps get permits for any units that aren't legally permitted. Just looking at Hannah to give some context.
Thank you. So just pulling from my report, the comment received from the building inspector does not note any aspect of illegal units or any non-complying units. So that's certainly something that we could look into. I'll read the comments submitted. So the building department has reviewed the proposal and has no conditions, but does have the following comment. 1, at time of permit review, the existing septic system must be evaluated for the additional sewage flow. And 2, no Ontario Building Code review has been completed at this time and will be done at the permit application stage. And then their comment closes with some general text on requirements or how to reach them. For the zoning administrator, there was no comments left in terms of any deficiencies created as a result of this application. And then what I would just say is it's under 10 units, so site plan and control in this case does not apply.
So sir, the septic has been addressed at the building stage. The agent seems to think it's time to start over with the septic. So, okay. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak to this application? What are the wishes of the committee? Just hang on a second.
If I could speak to it. So just to confirm, an evaluation of the septic system will be required through the permitting system. They'll need to make sure that every structure in there, every unit is legally, was legally established, and we'll have to get permits as appropriate. If committee isn't sure or would like staff to go back and reconfirm this information, one option could be a referral for staff to go back and collect this additional information and come back to committee with that before a decision is made.
So not a deferral, but a referral. There seems to be some
Thank you.
terminology difference.
So yeah, a referral is the request of staff to go back and come back with more information. A deferral is just deferring the decision, but
Right.
staff, there's no action of staff.
Okay. What are the wishes of the committee?
I move to, for the referral.
Referral?
Okay. Referral. The other thing I'm still curious about, maybe staff could look at it too, is the actual parking situation. Maybe the applicant could bring something back with some sort of a plan. It sounds like it's a big issue in the area already for other business owners, and I sympathize with that. And maybe to the agent, I don't know, is there any way to get rid of that old building with such useless and make more parking there? I don't know. Just an idea.
Okay, so a referral will get you staff more time to get more information from you and from the applicant, and it'll come back to us at another date. Go ahead.
If I could just clarify, so the referral, if committee could give direction to staff on what the referral would be for. So what I'm hearing is around the parking issue, recognizing in that zone, parking isn't required. We can gather additional information and look at the issue of septic and get further confirmation from building on the units and premise of issue.
Yes.
And I think, yes, we need to look at the legality of the existing.
Okay, so just so I understand, so committee is asking to refer this application to staff on the basis of looking at a parking situation that is not required. So I don't understand the planning justification for that. And then two, the other reason was looking into the legality or not legality of a unit, which that would be under the provision of the building department to determine, because the number of units is not a concern here. It would just be if they meet building code, which would be under the review of the building department, not this committee. So I'm unclear of the planning position, the justification here for a committee to refer the application. It's not clear. Like the septic system is going to be required as part of an approval.
Right.
So I don't understand what we're actually going to look into.
So through the chair, that's correct. So the information that committee is requesting is sort of outside of what's required for the decision on this application. So this application is to allow for an increased number of units on the ground floor or a reduction on the requirement commercial to create 2 additional units. Hannah has confirmed through the staff report that building did look at it and there will be further steps required at the building permit stage. So committee is evaluating the request to reduce the commercial space on the ground floor to allow for up to 2 more units on the rear end of the ground floor. That's what's under consideration right now. So committee does have the ability to refer, but just being clear that the use, the parking, no parking is part of the CBD zone. And the septic piece is outside of the planning.
But it's covered on in the building stage.
Correct.
Okay, so that's the one, excuse me, protection I wanted was that the septic would be looked at, but under the building. So are you still wanting a referral, Tim, or you want to draw that motion and make another motion? Okay. So what are the wishes of the committee?
So, Mr. Chairman, Rudy, so I just have a question.
Go ahead, Rudy.
Well, is a referral going to gain any advantage for the committee in the short term? Or is it just going to still go to the building department to determine if the septic system is adequate for what's being proposed?
I think we can make a decision tonight on this application and let the building department take care of the septic. And I think the applicant realizes that he may have a parking situation, which is outside of the realm of this application. But I think I would encourage him to look at his
We'll
parking
definitely
situation.
take a look at it.
Okay.
And I'll I'll confer with the property owner.
Yes. Yeah. Your septic system is gonna get, picked up at a different stage and addressed. So I think if
So-
if the committee is comfortable with that, then we can carry on. Go ahead, Rudy.
Mr. Chairman, I concur with your comments. So, based on that, and as long as everyone understands that the building department will look into the adequacies of the septic system, I would move forward with the motion for approval.
Okay, and just before you do that, I'll note that the gentleman who spoke in opposition, nodded in agreement with, no, the parking's outside of the realm of the application. Okay, well, that'll be addressed at the building stage, so he's somewhat,
We will do
Okay with-
everything in our power to try and
yeah,
get some off-street parking if it's feasible.
okay.
You know, I'm all for supporting parking, but it's got to be
I
feasible.
think
to
we've
us.
addressed pretty much all the concerns that are out there. So Rudy has moved for approval. Can I get a seconder, please? No second.
I'm still torn on the issue of the existing units, whether they're legal or not.
Well, again, it's outside of the realm of this application,
That's true, yeah.
but the building department will pick up on
Will they pick up on ones that are already there
that.
if they're not having any work done to them or anything else?
Well, that would be part of the permitting process that the applicant is going to proceed with. Trish?
Just wanted to remind committee to continue to follow Robert's Rules of Order. So just speaking through the chair,
Yep.
formalizing. motions.
Okay. So can I get a seconder for this application?
I'll second it.
Okay, Phil. So, Rudy has moved and Phil has seconded that application ANPL 2023-048, the name of Alan Zhang, be approved in accordance with section 45(1) of the Planning Act. Requested relief is considered appropriate for the proposed development minor in nature and maintains the general intent of the official plan and the zoning bylaw. All in favor, Tim? And Rudy?
Yes,
Phil?
Yes.
Myself? That's carried.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so file number, next up is file number ANPL 2023-054, Duncan Amos and April Gross at 321 Radical Road, and the planner can give the report, please.
Thank you. Through the chair, an application has been received to construct a new detached accessory residential dwelling unit. I'll refer to it as an ADU after this, above a reconstructed garage requiring relief of 45.4 square meters from the maximum permitted usable floor area of 75 square meters to permit a usable floor area of 120.4 square meters and 3 meters from the maximum ridge height of 5 meters to allow for a ridge height of total height of 8 meters. The subject land is a large residential lot within the agricultural zone on the north side of Radical Road, west of Port Dover. A large section of the lot is covered in woodland, hazard lands, and provincially significant wetlands, but these would not be impacted by the proposal. The requested relief in height is not considered to be significant, and however, there is concern whether or not the level of relief sought, which is equivalent to 60% overage for the usable floor area, could be considered appropriate and minor in terms of the 4 tests for a minor variance. It was concluded that whilst the principle of an ADU of the size proposed could be acceptable on this size of site and in this location, the level of relief sought is not minor, and that a zoning bylaw amendment would be a more appropriate route to any approval for this proposed ADU. As such, staff do not consider the proposal to meet the 4 tests for a minor variance and have recommended that the application be refused.
Okay, thank you. Is there agent or applicant present?
Good evening. I'm Joel Delman, the agent. Thank you all for being here and listening to our proposal, and thank you, Andrew, for reviewing it. So pretty much, I was just going to kind of piggyback on some of the previous stuff discussed today, in the sense that there's already been an ADU approved that's 8 meters tall. We also had a comment for one addition not impacting the neighbors at all, which I know would be important in size. Like mentioned there, where we are the woodland property, we're building the exact same square foot as the garage below. So, which is surrounded by mature trees, like 60, 80 feet tall. You won't even see the building. And it's the same size as the building that was previously there. So that's another one that I know that the neighbors are important for that. More than adequate parking for where we have on that one as well. And I have just a small diagram here to kind of just, because the height isn't an issue, that's the difference in building sizes. If it was to be, so sorry, like I said, it is a little small. I do have copies if you'd like one. I'll do that. That diagram is the only difference in size. So it is, I consider it very fine. Height is an issue. The bottom floor, like Hannah-Laura mentioned earlier, is because it is a property. What we're asking for. We're not asking for that relief from both stories for a large building. We're asking for it for the 2nd story ADU. This is partially for aesthetics, like you can finish the whole roof completely, correct? But yeah, so basically we're asking for that small top chunk in the corner to be added, just so they can fill fully above their garage, use the same footprint that's there, maintain that wetland. We did get Long Point approval. So I was hoping not to get a zoning amendment, because when you look at the property where it is, that's, many of you have probably driven down Radical Road. We're not talking small houses the neighbors have. Like there's a few there, some on the water, that are probably 8, 9 times the size of their main dwelling. So it's not an area that hasn't been developed with large buildings. It is a wetland that's completely environmental. We're not disturbing that at all because it's the same footprint. So it's essentially going to be a hidden building with that small top corner change. So I don't think we need to go to the zoning amendment for this one. And I have some more points, but I just let you start there as well.
We got the gist of it so far.
Yeah.
I can come back to you. Is there any questions of the committee? No. Is there anyone present that wishes to speak to this application? I have a question of you. This is a single unit you're adding to the upper level. Are you maintaining the garage as it is and just adding on?
So no,
Tearing down,
so
starting
the
over?
garage is not in a structural condition to
Okay.
build the 2nd story on.
All right.
So we're just maintaining the footprint.
Okay.
So yes, no, it is going to need to be rebuilt to be structurally safe for the building.
And this is a single unit?
Correct. So currently it's hoping to be like a multi-generational property. So the 2 owners, Duncan and April, live there with their 2 sons right now. They're sharing a 2.5 bed, 1 bath house. So they're essentially, they want to stay close to their, like I said, they have one of the smaller properties on Radical Road, and they're just kind of looking for a place for them as almost like a granny suite where their sons can live their own lives. They can live their own lives just basically above that garage.
Okay. All right. I got that. Okay. Is there anyone that wishes to speak to this application, present or online? I already asked that.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, go ahead, Rudy.
Yeah, Rudy, I just have a question for the planner. So his recommendation is a zoning bylaw amendment because of the size of the ADU, is that correct?
Through the chair. Yes, it's a fact and degree sort of situation where the current ADU policies allow up to 75 square meters. And what's being proposed is 120 square meters, so it's significantly above. It's not that the principle of such a development is of concern. I mean, I fully agree with the agent that it's a very enclosed site, that a building of that sort would not have any impact on neighbors or the street scene or any other sort of features, or on the protected wetlands or hazard lands. It is more of a concern that what is being requested cannot be considered minor, and in order for it to pass the 4 tests, it needs to be considered minor. And then if it's not minor, the only other option for such a development would be that they would go for a zoning bylaw amendment in order to achieve what they would like. As I say, it's not a comment on the design that they proposed or any other such thing. It's a technical argument that 60% above a fixed number cannot be considered minor in my professional planning opinion.
Mr. Chairman,
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Rudy.
yeah, just as a follow-up, Mr. Chairman, so again, to the planner, what would the threshold be in your opinion when it's no longer a minor, or is it more a site-specific issue that you can't really put a number on it, that it depends on each site? Or is there actually a threshold where you would say, well, it's now crossing the line from a minor into major?
I mean, it's always going to be a site-specific issue. I mean, we have to look at each application on its own merits. What I would say with this application is that the host dwelling is 144 square meters, approximately, if my memory is serving me correctly. And the requested ADU is 120 square meters. So even under previous policy guidance, which would have allowed an attached ADU to be up to 50% of the floor area of the host dwelling, we're well above that. If this were, and I don't want to get into too many ifs, but in different situations, were the host dwelling significantly larger than what they're proposing for an ADU, it might have been looked at as being more minor. There could have been an argument for it being minor. When it's proposed to have an ADU that is very nearly the size of the host dwelling, as well as being 60% above the allowable usable floor area, as I say, in my opinion, that's not minor anymore. That's significant, and that, as I say, I have no issues at all with what they're proposing. I just do not consider that the minor variance is the route that they need to be taking. I believe that it should be a zoning bylaw amendment.
Thank you.
So
Agent's going to respond.
to address Andrew's comments, number one, we did meet the old bylaw. It was a point of contention for this application. So we've been working on this, but then when they purchased the property about 1.5 years ago is when the application essentially started. And because that 144 square meter dwelling has 2 stories, we actually are 40% of what it would be. So we did meet that old bylaw, which is another reason I would think, because we did meet the more site-specific threshold that used to be set for an ADU, is we almost didn't go down the minor variance stage because it was pretty upsetting to the owners, because it was like, we planned this for 1 year prior, meeting that old 40% site-specific bylaw, to then be denied because it was a hard cap at 75. So we actually did meet the old bylaw because it was 144 square meters, 2 stories. We're asking for 120.4, 1 story of living, and the old garage below, correct? So we're actually less than 50%, less than 40% of that old dwelling. So that should be important that is why we also believe it is minor in nature, because it met the old bylaw. It is less than 40%. And it is, like I said, 1 of the stories. Their property is allowed 200 square meters of accessory buildings in their property. They're only going to have 120. There are 80 square meters less of accessory buildings they're allowed, just so we can have that top little corner be an ADU as well, right? So we're building 80 square meters, which is more than an entire new ADU would be allowed for, just so that we can complete a second story on a garage. Again, why? So meeting the old bylaw, less than the amount of building we're actually allowed to have on the property. All we want to do is finish a full second story. So that's why I believe it's minor.
Thank you. Is there any other questions of the committee? What are the committee's wishes? Okay. And moves to approve. Seconder? Phil? File number ANPL 2023054 in the name of Duncan Amos and April Gross. In accordance with section 45(1) of the Planning Act, the requested relief is considered appropriate for the proposed development, minor in nature, and maintains the general intent of the official plan and the zoning bylaw, and it's moved by Tim and seconded by Phil. And Tim, all in favor, Tim? Rudy?
Yes.
And Phil? Myself? That is carried. Okay, thank you. Okay, so next up we have file number ANPL 2023059, Judy Van Harris. And the planner can give the report, please.
Thank you. Through the chair, an application has been received to reconstruct an existing vacation home requiring relief of 3,145.57 square meters from the minimum permitted lot area of 4,000 square meters to permit a lot area of 854.43 square meters, relief of 2.55% from the maximum permitted lot coverage of 15% to permit a lot coverage of 17.55%, and a 0.04 meter deficiency from the minimum front yard setback of 6 meters to permit a decreased front yard setback of 5.96 meters. The subject lands are located at 197 Ordnance Ave in Turkey Point. The lot fronts onto Ordnance Avenue, but backs onto the waterway with a boat slip to the rear of the lot. There is currently an existing vacation home and accessory outbuilding on the site. Both would be demolished to allow for the construction of a new vacation home. As previously mentioned, relief is sought for the lot area, lot coverage, and front yard setback. All other setbacks would comply with the zoning bylaws for resort residential. The levels of relief requested would improve both the existing lot coverage and front yard setbacks compared to the existing lot layout. It is considered that the proposal would comply with the intent of the official plan and the Lakeshore Special Policy Area Secondary Plan, and both appropriate and minor in terms of the zoning bylaws. And staff therefore recommend this file for approval.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of the committee for the planner? Is there an agent or applicant present? Just state your name and anything to add.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and committee members. My name is Brad Deming. I'm just here as an agent for Judy.
Nothing to add?
No, just here to answer any questions.
Okay. Thank you. Is there anyone that wishes to speak to this application? Any questions of the committee to the applicant or planners? What are the wishes of the committee?
Rudy moves approval, Mr. Chairman.
Second, Phil. So file number ANPL 2023059, Judy Van Paris. In accordance with section 45(1) of the Planning Act, a requested relief is considered appropriate for the proposed development, minor in nature, maintains the general intent of the official plan and the zoning bylaw. And all those in favor, Tim and Rudy,
Yes.
Phil, and myself. That is carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. So next up, we have file number AMPL 2023-060, named John Lockhart. Planner can give the report, please.
Thank you. Through the chair, an application has been received to construct a new boathouse requiring relief of 24.26 square meters from the maximum permitted usable floor area of 56 square meters to permit a usable floor area of 80.26 square meters in total. The subject lands are at the very northern tip of Old Cut Boulevard within the resort residential area of Long Point. The proposal seeks relief in the maximum permitted usable floor area to allow for the construction of a boathouse over an existing slip. This additional usable floor area would allow for a relatively modest amount of internal space to move around the slip. The proposal would comply with zoning bylaws in all other respects. Given this, it is considered that the level of relief sought is minor and appropriate for the location and would comply with zoning bylaws, and it would also comply with the intent of both the Norfolk County Official Plan and the Lakeshore Special Policy Area Secondary Plan, meeting the 4 tests for a minor variance. As such, staff recommend this proposal for approval.
Thank you. Any questions of the committee? Is there an agent or applicant present that wishes to speak? Okay, the agent or the applicant. So, yeah. Okay. Press the talk button and state your name.
John Lockhart,
Okay.
applicant.
So yeah, the only question I had is the boathouse is designed, basically, it's designed to cover about half of the slip, the current existing slip there, or is it designed to go all the way to the end of the slip?
It's designed to go slip and then 10 feet past.
Oh, like, sorry, yeah, coming in.
Yes.
But going out, is it designed to cover the entire slip?
Yes.
Okay. It just looked like it looked like the way the crown man came in there, looked like it.
Well,
Part of that
that
slip
slip was cut out, but that's not, it cuts across it
Okay.
on the same page.
Oh, no, I walked the site.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah, no. No, that was my only concern is just that we're not building a boathouse on ground land. That's all.
Nope.
Okay. Any other questions of the committee to the applicant? Okay, is there anyone that wishes to speak to this application? Sir, come on up, state your name.
Hi, my name's Doug Kozak. I'm the co-owner of the property at 116 Old Cut, adjacent to this proposed boathouse. Okay. I've been down at Long Point at the cottage for over 65 years, enjoying Long Point Bay. My dad built the cottage that John now owns back in '52, when the lot was under a foot of water. My brother and I now share the property as part of my dad's estate settlement, and boat slip that was constructed was installed in early 22 without any permits, and permits were sought after that. The relief request of the 24.26 square meters wouldn't be an issue if it was anywhere else on the lot. But the impact of this boathouse to our enjoyment of Long Point Bay is substantial. We'd be looking at a 10 to 12 foot high by 36 foot long steel wall. I find it disturbing that all the building materials were delivered last week prior to approval of this relief. Anyways, thank you for your time. I do consider some of these issues regarding this request.
Yeah, and I saw we have your photos that you sent in.
Yes.
And I too walked the site on the weekend and just to see what was the lay of the land. Yeah, okay. Any questions of the committee to the deputation? Sounds like none. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thanks for your time. You have it on record.
Mm-hmm. So anyone else that wishes to speak to this application? Being none, what are the wishes of the committee? Nobody wants to make a motion? I don't believe the chair can make a motion.
Rudy moves approval, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, go ahead, Phil. Okay. So Rudy's less trigger happy, I guess. So Rudy moves approval on a seconder, Phil? Okay. So file number AMPL 2023-060 in the name of John Lockhart, in accordance with section 45(1) of the Planning Act, the requested relief is considered appropriate for the proposed development, minor in nature, maintains the general intent of the official plan and the zoning bylaw. All those in favor, Tim? And Rudy?
Yes.
And Phil? Myself is 2. Is carried. Approved. So next up, we have file number BNPL 2023-042 in the name of Mary Shapatura. I have that right. And the planner can give the report, please.
Thank you. Through the chair, an application has been received to sever a parcel having a frontage and width of 62 meters, a depth of 65 meters, and having an area of 4,030 square meters, about 1 acre, and retain a parcel having an area of 40 hectares or 100 acres as the severance of a dwelling made surplus through farm amalgamation. This consent application is being reviewed concurrently with a zoning amendment for the retained lands to remove a single attached dwelling as a permitted use in the agricultural zone, as with all other surplus farm severances. The subject lands are located west of the intersection of Wyndham Road 19 and Highway 24. The lands to be severed are approximately 104 acres, and they're occupied by a single detached dwelling. The applicant has confirmed with staff that on the lands to be retained, the barns were burnt down prior to the applicant taking possession in December of 2021, and the greenhouses and the kilns were all removed from the site. The subject lands are designated and zoned agricultural. Staff have reviewed the subject application in relation to the policies of the PPS, the official plan, and the zoning bylaw, and find it meets those policies and are recommending for approval subject to the attached conditions. I am available for questions. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of the planner to the committee? Is there an applicant or agent present? Just state your name and if you have anything to add.
Yeah, I'm Mary Shapatura. So with my husband, we own the company, and that's property that the farms that we just purchased in late 2021.
Mm-hmm.
We want to thank Anna for all the work we did on the application. And it is just a surplus dwelling for us that we just like to put to better use by someone else.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone present that wishes to speak to this application? What are the wishes of the committee?
Rudy moves approval, Mr. Chairman.
Tim, will you second Rudy?
Sure. Yes, I will.
Thank you. So Tim moves approval, Rudy seconds. The name file number BNPL 2023-042 in the name of Mary Shapatura. Pretty good, eh? Sometimes it's a challenge. There you go. This application is consistent with the provincial policy statement, complies with the policies of the Norfolk County official plan regarding the creation of a lot in an urban boundary in an urban area, and meets the intent of the zoning bylaw. All in favor, Tim? And Rudy?
Yes.
Bill? So, and that is carried and approved. Thank you, Mary. Okay, committee. So we have a couple of things, just another business. The director has asked that do a little bit more training And maybe Trish, if you'd like to address that, please, with the committee.
Sure, thank you. So we've had suggestions by the supervisor of building and also the project manager for development engineering to come to committee and do a little bit of extra training around where they're coming from when they apply conditions and consequences of not following conditions that are put in place by those departments. So they'd like to do that sooner rather than later. I recognize that next month is a long agenda. So the question would be, do you want to tack it on ahead of committee meeting or find another time to do the training? And we could perhaps do it online through Teams if that's easier for folks if we pick another time. But I leave it to the committee's discretion and staff will make it work that way.
Okay. I think with, I know with Lisa being a teacher, it's hard for her to before 4 o'clock kind of thing. So I think if we were to do a separate time and day, maybe late afternoon for an hour, like you said earlier, and set up a Teams meeting that way.
Sure, because we have a couple committee members missing today, perhaps Secretary Jody could do a circulation and confirm with folks what would work best and set it up that way. Okay,
we'll do that. And set it prior to the next meeting. I think it's a good idea that we get it in the week before the weekend. So again, one other thing that that the director mentioned about a heavy agenda next month, I propose that we move our time up to 3 o'clock because we have like 20 applications to get through. So if the committee is good with that, we can we have to make a decision on that today to get the circulation done. Rudy, you okay with that? 3 o'clock next month? Sorry, you muted, Rudy.
Yeah, what is the date for the meeting next month?
Third Wednesday of the month.
I don't have the calendar.
May 17th.
May 17th.
May 17th?
Yeah, so it'd be
3 o'clock?
Yeah.
Should be okay.
Okay. Phil? Tim? Okay. Well, okay. So, yeah, so I think it's either that or it's going to go to 8 or 9 o'clock at night. So, but I will stop. So
and Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Rudy.
Yeah, in terms of the other potential meeting, I would say if we can do that through a Microsoft Teams late afternoon or something to accommodate some of our other members, I think that would work.
Yeah, I think that's the plan.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, Jody, you can circulate the other members, and we'll go with 3 o'clock, May 17th. Okay. Any other business, Jody? Okay, great job this month. A little easier this month. Okay, so before me, I have is there any other business of the committee? So before me, I have a resolution to adjourn, moved by Tim and Phil. To adjourn, all in favor, and it's now 6:13 p.m. That's carried. Approved. Okay, thanks, committee. Night.